This is Nick Baisley from FilmSnobbery.com. I'm here at the Orlando Film Festival, the final day of the Orlando Festival, the best of the fest, as it were. And I'm sitting down with one of the people here who I consider to be the best of the fest. Who am I with here? Tell everyone who you are.
My name is Chris Simon. I made the film I Hear What You See, the old-time music of Kenny Hall.
And what made you want to get involved with this particular project?
Well, Kenny Hall is a musical icon in California. I mean, really, as far as the old-time music scene, and old-time is the precursor of bluegrass. So he uses the same instruments, but it's usually a social thing where you play to each other. There's none of the grandstanding that you hear in bluegrass. So it's the social music, and I like social music. I like hanging out with musicians. I met Kenny, who is at 87. Literally, he has a memory that is lost to younger people, so that he has the memory of the songs from the turn of the century and just afterwards, and he's happy to teach them to people. Plus, the thing that I really found was fascinating is the choices he made in his life. He was born blind. He's 87 years old now. He grew up in California institutions, so like the Institute for the Blind, School for the Blind, and he's the most independent man you could possibly imagine. He walks. The reason he really didn't become famous like Doc Watson was he decided he didn't want to take the time to tour. He wanted to devote his summers to walking 40-mile hikes in the Sierra Nevada mountains through the most rugged mountains imaginable by himself. No cane, no dog, no nothing.
As you're discovering this, as you're profiling him, was that the most surprising part? Because I hear that, like, no cane, no dog, I'm just going to go out in the woods or on the mountains or whatever. That to me sounds, some people would say, like, okay, that's kind of crazy, or at least, like, maybe crazy is not the word, but eccentric might be a better one. When you hear this, were you just say, oh, that's going to be great for the doc, or were you more saying, or for the story, or were you more of like, did it just prompt you to ask more questions, like, why would you put yourself in danger like that, or what do you do? What would you do if something did happen, or does he just have that attitude of just like, if it happens, it happens?
Well, interesting. I never thought of either of those questions. I just thought it was so astounding that. I mean, for one thing, we think of blind people as disabled. I would never even think of that word with Kenny, although obviously he is by definition. But it's just like he's differently abled, as we would say in Berkeley. And I mean, of course, it is astounding. I mean, you go on a walk with him, and he's walking along, and you're stumbling along because it's maybe midnight or something, and that's no barrier to him. But he, he'll say, "Oh, do you hear the birds?" And we don't usually necessarily hear that. Or he'll say, "We're passing this giant redwood tree," and how does he know that? He's like, he hears it. He literally. That's why the film is called "I Hear What You See," because he hears the shape of the tree. He smells that it's a redwood tree.
He's Daredevil, isn't he?
He is pretty Daredevil, yeah. Especially for an 87-year-old guy who's blind.
Do you think that his, for lack of a better term, said his disability, do you think that has informed his musical ability? I mean, his ability to hone in on sound and smells and everything else around him, has that enhanced his acoustical range from a musical level?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has. But there's plenty of blind musicians. There's a tradition of it. I think another thing that impressed me with Kenny is what he's done with. I mean, it's so interesting to me that so he's lost his sight, but he's gained other things by losing his sight. He can literally see with his hearing, and his worldview is so different. It's like, if you meet some woman, the first thing he asks is, "So what color's your hair?" And you say black. Well, how can black mean anything to the guy? And he goes, oh, that's wonderful, And he equates it to this thing. That's like a raven. Well, he's never seen a raven. He's never seen any of this stuff. And yet, this is part of his vocabulary. Like the way that he thinks about, if you say it's a sunny day, it's a sunny day, but there's a little touch of coolness in the air. He goes, "Oh, that's the key of D." And you go, "The what?" But he has all of his keys defined by the textures and the heat that he's feeling on his arms. So like the key of D would be a sunny day where there's a touch of cool. You know, what does he say? This key of A is when he's standing waist deep in the ocean and there's sun on his face. And the key of F, well, that is a really super cold day because that's the key that the refrigerator is in. See, these are things that are, you know, not accessible to you or me. But because he's blind, that's part of his worldview.
And I mean, was there any time as a filmmaker where you're working with this subject where you had, what was the challenging part for you to do this? I mean, was it teaching yourself to not think of him as handicapped, or was it addressing him a specific way and so that it was either not offensive to his handicap, or just trying to be more conversational to the, you know, to avoid? Did you try to consciously avoid saying things like this black thing over here because they don't know? I've been around blind people. I've clapped in front of, or I've waved hi in front of blind people before. Hey, how you doing? And it's a natural reaction because you're just talking to somebody. But, you know, was there any time where you kind of caught yourself kind of like, you know, and had to change your own behavior for the subject?
I don't know if there actually was, because if you had done something like wave at him, you know, you immediately realize, oh, duh, and he doesn't take offense at that. I mean, he is used to it. You know, one of the things he told me, and I thought it was very interesting, he grew up in a blind institution where they were taught independence above all else. Now, if with mainstreaming, I don't know if you have that here, but it means that they take the handicapped kids and they put them into the regular classroom, and then the kids are taught to help their friends, help the handicapped person, which is great. But what Kenny says is they shouldn't help them. That, you know, if you're blind, you're blind. You got to learn to deal with it, and you got to learn to take the bus by yourself. You got to learn what to do when there's no one around. And so that was kind of the attitude that I came to with him. That yeah, sure, I'd take his arm if you know, we needed to go somewhere or something. But I never, you know, it's very difficult for me to think of him as handicapped. It's more like has different abilities than me.
Superhumans, hearing and whatnot. It's just,
I mean, you know, he sees the world in a very different way than I can possibly see it. And one of the things I hope is that the film shows his worldview.
Did you ever try to go through exercises on your own where you would try to emulate what you're seeing him do to try to get a sense of, put yourself in his shoes?
No, but in the film, what I did try to film, like we go for a hike I'm illustrating stuff, so I go for a hike with the camera, and I tried to put it to show all the obstacles he's actually overcoming. But no, I'm afraid I feel like I just dealt with him like he is. I didn't think about it.
And so you've completed your film. You're here at the Orlando Film Festival. How are you enjoying yourself here so far?
Oh, Orlando is great. People are wonderful, and the projection is heavenly, and you have great crowds in general. They're all out here, and I appreciate seeing all these people in Orlando coming out to see independent films.
Excellent. And do you have any other films that you want to work on after this?
Well, I'm doing several films, but the one that's probably closest to completion is called No Mouse Music, and it is about a record producer named Chris Strachwitz on our Hooley Records, and Chris kind of brought Cajun music out of Louisiana, Tex-Mex out of Texas, and blues music out of the country. So, you know, he's the reason we know what Cajun music is, for instance.
What is it with you and music?
I'm a folklorist, so I'm into music, and you know, I do tend to do things on traditional music, but I'm up for rock and roll, baby, anytime.
Well, thank you for being here at the Orlando Film Festival with us, and thank you for showing us, you know, your movie and your subject, because I think that is not only entertaining, but I think really, I mean, I'm intrigued. I mean, just even speaking about it, I'm coming up with questions like, well, what about this? I mean, how does he do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've certainly had the experience where I see someone who I perceive needs a little help, and I don't know whether to help them or let them, you know, do it themselves. And, you know, what Kenny always says is just ask. You know, because if they need a little help opening the door, they're going to say yes, or they're going to say no, I can handle it myself. And so I think that's one of the big things I learned, not to be so nervous or worried that we're going to do something wrong. Just do the human thing. It'll be fine.
Well, I want to thank you for helping us open up that dialogue.
All right. Thanks a lot. It's good
Thank
to meet
you. Nice to meet you.